Thank you, and welcome to Caliper's webinar, Using 360s to Develop Managers and Leaders. I'm Patrick Sweeney, the president of Caliper. Today, I'm very pleased to share with you insights from several experts on the importance of developing your managers and leaders, especially in this tough economy. I'd like to also mention that all registrants will receive an email with links to slides and a recording of today's presentation. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speakers. With me today is Joe Moore. Joe is the Senior Vice President of Organizational Development Services here at Caliper. Joe has extensive experience at consulting with companies of all sizes and is an extremely talented and sought-after executive coach. Also, we'll be talking with John Sundberg. John is the managing partner of Bilzin Sumberg, a law firm in Miami, and he'll be sharing with us how he was able to use the 360 to develop himself and his management team into a more strategic and unified group. In addition, we'll be talking with Hal Little, the Director of Field Veterinary Services for Mariel, which is a world-leading animal health company. Hal will be speaking to us about how he used the 360 to help his veterinary team understand their strengths and develop into a more client-focused team. Now I'd like to go over with you what we'll be discussing during today's session. We'll focus on how to utilize a 360 evaluation, what a 360 can provide, the goals that can be achieved by using a 360, and how to utilize the experience even after the 360 is complete. Joe, I know companies view 360s in very different ways. Some companies view them as a standard for helping managers and leaders develop their potential. They conduct them annually in order to help executives improve in very specific ways. For other companies, they are just beginning to consider them, weighing what they perceive to be the pros and cons of the 360. They may be encouraged by how they've seen other companies grow their talent by incorporating 360s into their development process, but leery of how some people might take constructive feedback and concerned about upsetting the apple cart. Can you give us your sense, Joe, of how 360s can help an executive, a team, and a company become better, and how a company might go about incorporating 360s into the way they coach and develop their top talent?
Well, I'll start with that, Patrick, because coaching is a great place to use a 360. We like to use the 360 survey tool before we start a coaching process because it allows the individual that we're coaching to get feedback on their performance from their manager or managers, peers, direct reports, perhaps customers or other groups. And it brings an awareness about that is often difficult, and often the reason people go into coaching anyway is to become more self-aware of their behaviors and their performance as seen by others so that they can begin to make changes where they need to or utilize the strengths that they have to offset some of the weaker areas.
And what would be some questions that someone would be filling out or answering about someone, either a colleague or their leader or someone who is being evaluated through this process?
Our 360 tool, like others, is a survey, and rather than answering questions, people are rated on specific behaviors. So for instance, we have our 360s divided up into 4 sections, 4 competency areas, one being leadership, the second being interpersonal skills and how you relate to people. The third has survey questions about how you solve problems and make decisions. And the fourth is about your ability to organize yourself and to manage your time. So if I might start with the leadership area, one of the behaviors, for instance, that you would be asked to rate as someone giving feedback would be assertively presents goals, strategies, vision, and tactics. So you would be rating the person on a 1 to 7 scale as to how well you think they do that. And there's a number of other questions. One of them, certainly in the leadership area, would be delegates responsibilities. This is very important for managers to understand how their direct reports feel about that. Do they feel like the person is delegating to them? Do they feel like he or she is over-delegating or under-delegating? And that seems to be one that we usually get a lot of good feedback on to help the manager understand how the direct reports feel. So those are just a couple of examples of survey items that are included in the 360. That's why it's called a 360. If you imagine the individual in the center of a sphere, they're getting feedback and survey ratings from all around them. So in a work situation, it would be from above, from your management, from below with your people reporting to you, your direct reports, and alongside of you, around you, your peers. And oftentimes, people would like their customers to weigh in as well, and those can be internal or external customers, so that you truly get an idea about how different groups respond to your performance and respond to your behaviors. And oftentimes, the group themselves have very different perspectives. You might be a manager that is excellent at managing up, but not at managing down. And that's a good thing for somebody to understand. And I think the longer we're all in business, the more we become very used to our patterns, and we don't actually see how others are perceiving those. And I think most of us, Patrick, tend to excel in one area or another, whether it's managing up, managing down, making sure that you're very team-oriented with your peers. But there's often an area that maybe you're not paying quite enough attention to, that you just haven't thought about.
In those 4 areas that you talked about.
Yes.
And then they're all looking at you in, as you described, 4 different ways as well. They're looking at the way you solve problems, your interpersonal skills,
the way you make decisions, the way you lead others. And do you have good time management? And are you organized? Do you follow through on things and get back to people when you say you're going to?
Interesting. So you have the ratings coming from all around you, and I know Caliper has a slightly different approach to a 360. Can you describe to us what that difference is and how that comes about?
Yes, Caliper's 360 is unique in the marketplace in the sense that it embeds our proprietary personality assessment, the Caliper profile, into the 360. So you actually look at the Caliper profile ratings, which gives you your strengths, areas that you need to develop, and it helps you understand how you're motivated, what motivates you. And that's built in as a rater itself, so that it becomes very powerful when a person hears how their personality and their behaviors are perceived, and they can also see what drives and motivates that behavior from the personality assessment. So it becomes a more powerful statement to the person about maybe why they're doing such things. Let's think about delegating responsibilities as one. A person, we might find that if they get fairly low ratings on delegating, it might be because we look at their Caliper profile and see that they're highly thorough, that they want to get things done quickly, they're urgent, they want to get things done fast and very well. They're highly self-structured, so they like to do things their way. So what keeps them from delegating is that sort of personality, the trait combination that leads to that personality that hates to let things go.
Okay.
And so what that person might find out is that your direct reports are telling you that they see you keeping a little too much, and they're not being able to grow and learn more things themselves because the manager often takes care of those tasks. So it's insightful for people like that to know that, yes, it is my personality. That's my inclination to hold on to things, to do them myself. But what I'm understanding now is that may not be good for people who are reporting to me, who want to grow and learn.
That fascinates me, Joe. Once the individual understands the people around them, they are better able to use their own personality strengths and adapt their behavior in order to work better with others. I'm thinking now would be a great time to introduce John Sumberg. John is the managing partner of Bilzin Sumberg, a law firm in Miami. And John, the 360 has been incorporated into the coaching that you've been doing. Can you tell us first of all how that came about and what you've learned from these evaluations?
Sure, Patrick, I'd be glad to. We've used coaching, particularly with our practice group leaders, to assist them in connection with their leadership styles and in connection with their interpersonal skills. And as part of that, in some of the discussions with Caliper, it became clear that the 360 diagnostic tool would take us to the next level in working on those issues for our leaders. So what we did was we had a group of 5 of us, me being one of them, who took the 360 and have been using it for self-improvement.
you guys are obviously very involved in looking at making the firm as good as possible in terms of your hiring and developing people. But when you take 5 people who are at the helm of an organization like that, what is that process like to go through? What were you hoping to get out of it at the end?
It's really interesting. By the time we took the 360, we had already been with Caliper, had coaching, had some seminars, so we had a pretty good idea of what the 360 might be able to provide for us. And what we were looking for was an opportunity to get open feedback on an anonymous basis from people at different levels within the firm, supervisors, peers, and subordinates, so that they would be free to give their reactions, and we would be able to receive that information, both quantitative and also with narrative comments. And we were hoping that that process would give us good feedback from other people in the firm that would help guide us in terms of areas of strength and areas that we could work on.
And can you give us, John, some ideas about what some of those areas would be? And did you have a sense going into it that you wanted to be a little bit more open or come across in a slightly different way?
I'll speak for myself first. A law firm is a people business. It's 100% dependent on the relationships among the people.
Right.
And as management of the law firm, it is critical that we work closely with different people with different styles of thought, different styles of communication. And what I was hoping to get out of the 360 was a better ability to understand different styles and to deal with them and work with them, so that when I'm dealing with people whose styles of thought and styles of expression are very different than mine, that I could really have an appreciation of what they were thinking, what they were saying, and that we could have a very open and smooth way of working together towards solutions.
And how would you characterize your style, John?
My style is very assertive, very direct, very quick, and very clear.
And can you tell us, John, what you learned about yourself in this process in terms of your style and how it might come across in some ways effectively and in other ways that you might not have intended?
What I learned was that my style works very well with people who think like me and who communicate like me, and with other people who have different styles, perhaps a slower, more contemplative style, or perhaps a more laid-back style, or perhaps a style that is less assertive, that sometimes my style could inhibit them from really fully participating and communicating, and that I wasn't really getting the maximum out of the relationship that I could.
We often end up connecting with people who are more like us. People whose styles are like ours, it's a lot easier. What did you learn about changing then your style when you're talking to someone who isn't built like you are?
Well, changing is always difficult, and I wasn't surprised, but I was committed to the process, and I understand how important it is for the firm to improve as much as possible the communication at the management level. So what I learned was the first step, of course, is to understand the issue. And the 360 feedback helped me focus with much better clarity on some of the specific issues in terms of different styles and communication. Then, following the feedback, I had a coaching session where we went over the feedback and created strategies with the different styles and talked about approaches as to how the communication might improve, and amplified the information on the 360 to give me an understanding of what people with different styles are perceiving and how they're reacting to me, either one-on-one or in a room or in the dynamic within our practice group. And with that additional insight and then specific strategies for how to communicate in a way that works better with the different styles, that was really what came out of the process. And there's been, ongoing subsequent coaching, which in my case is with somebody from Caliper, and with my practice group leaders, I'm coaching them on their issues and going over a specific list of usually 3 specific objectives with measurable items and time frames. I meet with the people I'm coaching every couple of months, and we talk about incidents that have occurred that implicate the issues they're working on and whether they went well, whether they were improved in their approach, whether they had issues that